Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, welcome. This is your host, JC Soto with Online Media 360. Today we have Renee with the ChangeMakers Podcast, and she's going to tell us more about what she does. Welcome to the podcast, Renee.
Hi, JC. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today.
I've been listening to your podcast and the guests that you have in your podcast. So what's the goal of the podcast that you have, and what are the people you're looking for your podcast?
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked. The goal of the podcast, it's really an opportunity to collapse timeframes on networking. So I can very, very quickly get to know someone, get to know their business, and discover how I can serve, whether it be from my own resources or possibly others that I know that I can connect them with. So it's a very, very efficient way of doing that. And then what was the second question you asked me?
So how do you help them with the goal that you have? How do you help them accomplish that?
Yeah, so they come onto the podcast. I have questions that really help me to quickly take a deep dive into their business and what they're about, and discover where their pain points may be, and things that they're looking for at that time, or just what their next fun thing is that they're working on in their business, and how to help to facilitate that, again, possibly through me or others, and just really bringing our community together.
That's a good idea. I love the name ChangeMakers Podcast. Is that something that you're looking for change makers specifically in business or in life, or is that more of a general term?
Yeah, that's another question I get a lot. It's, successful business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers. Usually it is tied to business in some way, shape, or form. But there's some pretty interesting people that have been on that, they're changing the world in their own big way, that may not be specifically a business, but we sure do need them in the world.
Yeah, and how they find out about you?
They find out about me usually through word of mouth. Whenever I am working, again, because it's such an efficient way to meet with people, is I very quickly find out who else they know that should be on my podcast. So I always ask. It's real simple. And they always say, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. You have to talk to so-and-so. You have to talk to so-and-so. So usually through referrals, and, a lot of businesses kind of have that idea of, let me reach out to people I know first. So I talk about it everywhere I go, and those that are a good fit for the podcast, we make it happen.
Sounds good. Now, from the point of authority and visibility, I know that's one of the best ways to do that. Now, a lot of people don't take advantage of podcasts. Is that been your experience also?
Absolutely, absolutely. Even from what I do kind of in my real life, if you will, by my trade, it's something that's not really looked upon as, it's something we should do. And what I found is it helps me to so much more quickly identify maybe even opportunities there within that. But here's the thing, I grew up in an age, get my age away here, but I grew up in a time where I remember the first time I got a cell phone. And, I thought, oh my gosh, this thing's going to replace the pager. How is that possible? Right? So things have changed. And, technology, as you know, it's constantly moving. I mean, as we sit here and speak, it's changing like crazy. So a podcast may not be the thing, a month or a year from now. So that's always changing. So I believe it's important to keep up with that. My industry is a very traditional industry, and it is very easy to get kind of stuck in those traditions, and some of those serve us very, very well. But when it comes to reaching out to people, and we have such a good way of helping them, it's important we get to them quicker. So now what used to take, one phone call or one meeting, I can touch 1,000 people in a couple of seconds through a podcast.
That's a great idea. What's ironic that, technology has moved on, and we have all these new things all the time, but it's basically the same concept of radio back when, the 50s and 40s, interviewing people on radio and listening to radio, because a lot of people now listen to the podcast on the go. It's not like very few people really watch the videos, but like back then where people have the big boom box on the shoulders or listening to radio, it's kind of going back in a way, just a different platform or how way to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's just absolutely amazing how much it has changed.
Yeah. And what can you give me an example of what type of guests you have in your show? Do you have some peculiar people that are eye openers, or you have some funny people? Can you give us, you don't have to say names, but kind of experiences or stories?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the idea is business owners, influencers, entrepreneurs who are earning six figures or more. So they have, have had some blood, sweat, and tears in their business and a whole bunch of wins already. So that they have value that they can share, because again, a lot of entrepreneurs watch the show, and so it really helps us to grow as a community. But gosh, oh my goodness, I had some really, really neat ones. I had a lady actually that started she left corporate America, and she is rocking and rolling it still. Actually, I keep up with her, and she started her own funeral planning type business, but it's very modern. And it has just a lot of different things you can do. It's almost like an a la carte kind of a thing. And she took all these years of experience and then plugged that in. And so it was really neat to hear that. I thought, gosh, everyone's going to need that, right? Everyone's going to need her. Because what do we hear? It's two things we have to do in life: pay taxes and die, right? So she's definitely does a great company there. But that was really interesting to see, what was important and what she's found in her world to make a whole new business out of it.
I remember when I first started my podcast, it was really exciting. It's something new. I was trying to figure out what questions to ask, who to talk to, how to conduct the whole thing, how to do editing. How do you feel when you start doing your own podcasting?
I felt excited as well. I'm an entrepreneur, right? So shiny object. I was like, oh, new shiny object. But I was more excited about how quickly I could reach people and make an impact for other business owners that are out there, and how we could help our client bases. So I was excited. It was a little nerve-wracking with the technology for me, but you know what? I just knew that people have done it before me, so I reached out. I asked a lot of questions. People are so willing to help. It's just amazing. They love to share their advice and what's worked for them, and kind of tell you, don't do this, that really won't work. So that saved a lot of time and had me feel much more confident with the technology side of it.
So there was any hesitation when you invited guests to your show? Were they kind of, well, this is a brand new show, maybe now, maybe I'll wait?
Yeah, not at all. Not all. That's interesting that you would ask that. In fact, with pre-recording, and then, before launching the podcast, like, oh my gosh, you haven't even launched yet? Wow, I'm one of your first. And this was after we recorded. So, I think people just get excited. They kind of love to, you find those people that business owners love to chat and talk about their business, right? And that's what it does. It allows an opportunity to do that. As far as reaching out and asking people, not so much. I mean, I kind of learned and got past that when I got into the financial industry years ago. I'd come from dentistry, and I was used to the patients would just show up and they were there because we had staff that did that in the office. So it was really different for me to go out and find my own clients and talk to people. But again, I believed in what I was doing, so it was really easy to talk to them. That translated super well to the podcast. So I was grateful for that in my past.
Bringing the background to the podcasting helped a lot then.
Huge. Yeah, huge.
Now, your podcast, is that a long podcast? Is it short? How long usually you talk to your guests for?
Yeah, so it is an 8-minute podcast with 6 questions, and it's 8 minutes because business owners like to get to the point, and because 8 is my favorite number.
You say 8 minutes for 6 questions?
You got it.
All good. Have you had any feedback from people that already been on the podcast? Have they talked to you about anything that happened? And then maybe after the podcast, you have some. Now, I know that when I have my guest after the show, they're kind of, they're on high. They're really happy. They're really, builds a lot of confidence, and helps me also. So do you have any of those experiences yourself?
Yes, every single time. Isn't it a rush too? I love it. I love watching their adrenaline and their physiology changing. And at the end, I 9 times out of 10, I hear, that was fun. So that's always good to know.
Have you had any guests that at the beginning, they're kind of, you feel like you have to pull the words out of their mouth, and then halfway through the show, they kind of loosen up and you see the difference drastic from the beginning towards the end?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Once we can get that monkey brain to just be quiet and leave them alone, right? It's neat too, because sometimes it can be, I remember one in particular was more of a behind the scenes kind of a person in their business. And even as they were doing their business. And it was interesting because, he's like, oh my gosh, I was so nervous, but he did an awesome job. He was, very methodical and thought about his answers and was very easy to follow and super clear his advice that he gave and also what his business does. So it was just neat to see how that translated into the video.
So maybe you already talked about this, but what made you think about getting involved with the podcast, getting your own show?
Really working on, I have a business coach, Gary Barnes, the great Gary Barnes, and he was encouraging me to work on what he calls my celebrity. And that was a little different for me, being this reserved financial person, right? And so I analyzed that until the cows came home, and finally the cows came home and I got it. And it was really him planting that seed and saying, there's so much more people that you could touch and so much more that you could do. And you've got to get into this media world. And so I found this a really effective way for me to bring value to others and meet people very quickly. I'm new to Denver, and so I knew I needed to, meet quickly with people, but also very efficiently connect. So
does the word celebrity intimidated you?
No, it was just weird. I'm like, why would I want to be a celebrity? Right? So, but, as he started to explain to me more that, as you bring that credibility, I have all this credibility with the years, of experience in the financial side of things. However, you go out and think about it. You go out to a networking event, like, oh, you're a financial advisor, run, right? Yeah. Or it's like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for you. The latter is less often that happens. Yeah. And so, there's a lot of things that come up for people around that. But, to be seen, as Gary says, yes, to be safe and to be relevant. Mm-hmm. And the podcast allows me to do that.
Nowadays, with all the noise out there in the business world, what I see is that a lot of businesses have a hard time standing out. And a lot of business owners also, they're copying each other. They're doing the same thing. And you cannot tell the difference. Years back, being on the first page of Google was the goal, the ultimate goal. And then everybody was able to do that. And then when the client or the prospect will get to that first page of Google, they could not tell, well, which one should I choose? Because they're the same. So being a celebrity and being the authority is what makes a difference nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me something that you learned years back, a lesson, life lesson, business lesson that you still apply today.
Oh boy, there's so many.
Well, give me a couple.
Two come to mind. One is actually three, I guess, but just don't quit. Don't quit. If you have an idea, act upon it. And that kind of dovetails into the second one of having faith and versus being stuck in fear. So easy to do. We have what I call as a good angel and a bad angel. And the good angel is the one that says, hey, JC, go out and start that podcast. Hey, JC, go write that book, right? Hey, JC, go talk to that person that you want on your podcast or whatever that is, right? And then the bad angel, and that's our ego mind. Right. And that's the part of us that wants to get in our way and take us down. It's the one that says, oh, you've never written a book before. Who do you think you are? Right. And it really can overcome us. So, just taking action in spite of yourself and just having faith and believing and saying, you know what, I know I can do this. There was someone that did this the first time. Right. And if not, I'm going to be that person. But lots of records and barriers have been broken. And we have too many examples to refer to let that ego mind get in the way. And the third thing I would say is, really focus on serving others. Any business that you can focus on serving others, listening to what your clients actually want, not what you think needs to happen. I read the comments in the podcast, what people are saying, and it's like what they like and what they don't like. And really looking at, where do the most likes and all that come from? You do that long enough and keep feeding them, right, what they want, not what I think they want. That is a big game changer in success.
So do you get nervous before a podcast interview when you have to be the host?
Yeah, I wish I could say yes, but I'm a ham. I'm just a ham. A lot of financial professionals are like that. We love to talk.
Yeah, well, that's good. You don't overthink things and you say, well, what if I say the wrong thing? What should I ask that person? How should I respond? You don't get into that mindset of chaos, mental chaos that some people get into.
Yeah, I think I would, again, referring to my background, even in dentistry. Someone's laying in your lap and you've got to build trust really quick because you're about to put a needle in their mouth, right?
Yeah.
So that you very quickly learn how to do that. However, getting in the financial industry, that was quite a transition for me because I was no longer I've always said I was kind of hiding behind a mask, which I didn't realize until now. I had to face someone, look them straight in the eyes, and we're kneecap to kneecap versus they're kind of laying down a very different way of being with them. So yeah, I pulled that into the podcast, and I think just those years of 25 years of doing that has served me. So again, very grateful for my background.
And the visibility part probably is not a problem for you, because now when I post a podcast, people will see it and they can either love it or hate it, because people are not shy about expressing their opinions. Is that something you sometimes think about? Whoa, what if people don't like this?
Yeah, I've thought about that. But the other thing, and that's another piece of mindset with business, is I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth for a minute, and it'll make sense at the end, I believe. But I adopt the mindset of what others think about me is none of my business. However, right, if I'm putting out content, what other people think about it, it's important, right? So to adopt the mindset to where I don't really care what they think about me in general, but I'm going to listen to what are they liking, right? And what are they responding to in kind, so I can continue to go that path versus, paying attention to, God bless anybody that puts a negative comment, right? Watches it, puts a negative comment. I feel bad for them actually to do that. But I think, those ones that are saying, hey, do more of this, that's where I'm going to go. That's a path I'm going to follow.
I remember a story of a preacher that used to say, I come to preach for the believers. The non-believers, they can come in and can keep listening, but the believers are the ones that I want to get the message to, because I know they're going to be able to go out and spread the word for me. So I think that's the way I look at it. People that are listening in and have the attitude of just sharing the content, those are the people I'm looking for. Now, the naysayers, I say, thank you. If your feedback is good, I apply what I can, but I'm going to keep moving with this. Yeah. And that's the attitude that I have. So if someone wants to start a podcast, can you give us some tips? Maybe I know you went from all the way from the beginning and figuring everything out. Now you have clients and you have feedback and you have people looking at you. Can you give us some tips?
Yeah, absolutely. You can always reach out to me, reach out to others who have gone before you and done it. That's what I did. It's actually a lot more simple than I thought it was going to be. Right? You kind of look at a mountain and go, I've got to do this whole brand new thing, but just one step at a time. And so really simple, I'd say make sure you've got some great lighting, get a good microphone. And again, these are things that, someone like JC and I who've done it can give you some tips on, and a nice camera. Now, I will say usually a quieter place. However, there's construction going on behind me. But, if you can have a quieter place there, I think just lighting and microphone is everything. And the biggest thing is let people know you're in business. Right? Get that, open your mouth. That's the number one thing. Yes,
exactly. Let them know that you want to talk. You're available to talk, And you said that there's noise in the background, but I like that, because that tells people that, hey, this is not a precise science. Things happen. You just do it. What counts is the message. Put that message out there. And people with noise and everything else, they're going to hear what you need to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's a priority.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell my listeners?
I would just say whether it's a podcast or whatever next big thing that you're wanting to work on, go for it. There's lots of people around you. Once you set an intention and make a decision, it's amazing what shows up for you. Your reticular activator in your brain will bring about all kinds of resources that were there all the time that you may not have been aware of. And just wish everyone luck with that. And
one more time, what's the name of your podcast?
The name of the podcast is the ChangeMakers with an S podcast, the ChangeMakers Podcast, and you can find us on Facebook.
And what's is the name on Facebook the same?
It is.
Okay. And another thing, you help people with the putting them out there and talking and kind of giving more visibility. You stay in touch with them, you kind of follow up with them, you do something extra with them also?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We stay connected, and that's the power of having that effective action that we're taking. In fact, I met with someone who'd been on my podcast last week, and we met yesterday afternoon. And it was just so cool to dig deeper into what's going on for both of us and how we can serve one another. So we ended up, both of us, saying, hey, you got to call these people, you got to call these people. And it just continues to grow from there. So yes, it's a great opportunity to foster those relationships.
All righty. Thank you very much, Renee. And I think it was Les Brown that said, the wealthiest place on earth is the graveyard, because everybody's ideas that were not put out die with those people. So yes. Thank you for doing that. And again, repeat the name of your podcast for my listeners and your Facebook group, please.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on the show, JC. It's been a blast, and I wish you continued success as well. And your listeners can find me on Facebook, the ChangeMakers Podcast.
Thank you, Renee. And for my listeners, her link is going to be just below this recording. Thank you for everybody for listening. See you next time. This is JC Soto with Online Media 360. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.